The news has been confirmed then that Luton Town have parted company with manager Rob Edwards. Alongside me to reflect on that decision immediately is the Lutonian journalist James Cunliffe. Jimbo, I think we were in a position where we saw this coming. The rumours earlier in the week, or as the week has gone on, grew stronger by sources that also grew stronger, and obviously results were getting worse at the same time. But I think this is two things. I think it's the right time, albeit maybe even on the wrong side of being a little bit too late. But it can also still be a sad day as well.
It can, because of what has been achieved by Rob. This season hasn't gone to plan. That's for sure. Whether you expected automatics or anything, I'm not sure that was ever going to be the case, because there's still a lot of teams in this division that are massive teams and big clubs with bigger budgets, and Luton are always punching above their weight. It's just, for the first time, well, really for the second time in 11 years, Luton haven't punched, even at their weight, let alone above their weight. And that's been the disappointing thing, because to see, the first season and a half of Rob's tenure, even though there were defeats in the Premier League, we all accepted that. There was a lot of fight and there was some good play. There were some good players. It just hasn't happened in this division. And it's been really tough to witness, because at times we're sort of pulling our hair out, aren't we? Like, we don't know what's happened. Well, we do. I mean, there are elements of it we do. But it's the timing of it. I don't know. I'm not sure. We spoke in the last podcast, the QPR podcast, about all the positive parts of that game. And now we're, a third of the way through January transfer window. And will that divert attention away from the necessary that needed to happen of getting players in? These are all questions to be answered in the coming days, I'd imagine. But, initial reaction is you can understand it. You can't argue against it. And I'm not trying to. I'm not trying to at all. That's the reality of football, isn't it? And maybe it went on too long. But, we're going to be now in a situation where Luton are going to be needing a new manager.
We are. Yep. We'll do a full reaction in another podcast where we'll look ahead at who that could be. But yeah, the reason why I say this is a sad day is because although this became more and more of an inevitability, the more that the results didn't start to turn, got worse. This is still the guy who gave me and many others, plenty of you out there watching this, the greatest day in our Luton supporting lives on May the 27th, 2023 at Wembley Stadium. This is the guy who, from the moment he walked in the door, told us fans to dream and dream big and have no problems with dreaming big. Contrary to his predecessor, who tried to dampen the spirits of dreaming big because he was worried that he couldn't match those expectations. Rob didn't have any problems with that. Dream big, and he made those dreams come true. He gave us some brilliant days, brilliant nights, not least that Wembley Stadium one. He gave us a Premier League season that none of us could have dreamt of 10 years ago. We were still looking at the Conference Premier League 10 years ago, not the Premier League. He gave us magical times like Everton away, like Liverpool at home, like Newcastle away, like Brighton at home. Got those two in the wrong order, obviously. But he gave us some brilliant, brilliant moments in a tough Premier League season. And only injuries have kept us out of the Premier League. But for those, who knows, we may still be a Premier League club and everything would still be hunky-dory. However, it got harder and harder and harder to watch the longer it went on. And whilst we all had the hope that Rob would be the man to turn it round, the evidence in front of our very eyes quickly kept on diminishing, to the point that I think this decision was inevitable. I think it's late later than it needed to be. But I think it is the right decision. I think we do need to go in a different direction. But in the sort of coolness of time, I'd like to remember the good times under Rob, the very, very, very good times, the best times he gave me, the 2 Watford wins, the Sunderland playoff semi-final, the playoff final, and those games I mentioned in the Premier League, rather than the last 2 months. I'll remember a guy who's allowed me to achieve my football fans' dreams and set my football club up for the future in doing so.
Yeah, and that's the sort of thing that's kind of get lost amongst the the nature of defeats and draws and losses, isn't it? That purely by getting Luton to the Premier League, the club, the future of the club is sustainable like never before. You know, if you were long enough in the tooth to remember, three times Luton nearly went bust in 10 years. And that potentially could never happen. It may never happen again. Hopefully, it's that big a deal, and that's because he got to the Premier League and got that money. And regardless of your opinion of where you want that money to be spent, it's going to largely go on that future, that long term future. So, it's a huge part of the story of Luton Town Football Club, really, because. At one point, there wasn't going to be a story.
No, indeed not. No. History will be good to Rob. I'm certain of that. He'll be welcome back at Kenilworth Road, and we'll remember the very, very good times he gave us. That's the immediate reaction from Jimbo and myself. The news had literally just broken. We thought we'd put a video out there just to react. We'll do a full podcast in the not too distant future where we will reflect a little bit further on Rob's tenure in charge of the club and maybe look ahead at who might be his successor. So some of the runners and riders doing that. But until then, an era has ended.